This episode of Profiles in Risk is brought to you by InsurTech Connect Las Vegas. The legendary ITC is coming back to Vegas October 14 to 16 at the Mandalay Bay Casino. ITC is the largest InsurTech conference in the world by a long shot and the absolute cannot miss event of the year. We never miss it, neither should you. Register today using our discount code INSNerd200. Again, that's INSNerd200 and see you in Vegas, baby. And when you're there, look for me. I'm the guy with the red top hat and ask me for a magic trick. Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your overly caffeinated and sleep-deprived host, Tony Cañas, drinking delicious Costa Rican coffee, homebrewed here. This is, the 8th episode I record during the current trip to Costa Rica before heading to Las Vegas on Friday for more magic. Today I have with me Chris Bean, CEO and co-founder at Skytree Scientific. Chris, how are you doing today?
Hey Tony, I'm doing great. Hope the same for you. Happy to be here today with you.
Yes. It's been a fun trip. I tend to come in July because it's my mom's birthday this year. She turned 65, and we've had a very fun visit. Chris is in New Zealand, so we are recording what for me is July 29th, 2 p.m. For him, it's something like August 1st at 8 a.m. Like 2 days ahead kind of thing. Don't think too much about it. New Zealand, one of the first countries to welcome the new year, but we're 6 months away from that. Are you in Auckland or what area of New
I
Zealand?
am.
Okay,
I'm
perfect.
in Auckland.
So normally I try to guess the weather, but so that's Southern Hemisphere. So you're winter, but not a bad winter.
That's right. It's quite a bit different from my hometown of Asheville, North Carolina, as far as winter temperatures. It's beautiful most days, although this is the rainy season. But this year, from what I've heard from other people here, it's been mild. So I'm happy to be enjoying this nice weather.
All right, all right. We always give the guest a chance to give the elevator pitch. What is Skytree Scientific?
Yeah, happy to give you that snippet, that 30,000 foot description. Skytree Scientific is revolutionizing how insurers assess lightning risk. Our platform analyzes property data. It delivers precise risk scores in minutes. This equates to faster underwriting, more accurate pricing, and ultimately fewer losses. We help insurers identify high-risk properties at the address level. We help them to predict potential claims and even recommend mitigation strategies to their policyholders. Our platform in the insurance space is a first of a kind. Then I'll save the rest for later. But that's in essence what we're doing.
All right. So literally trying to catch an insurance lightning in a bottle or a lightning in a bottle for the insurance industry. I love the background. Skytree Scientific, AI's answer to the storm.
Mhm.
All right. I must say, 700 episodes. Nobody else, I don't believe, has built a company around lightning. All right, so I go back to my underwriting and my claims adjuster days. Claims adjuster first, but I did mostly auto, so I really had no experience in the property claim side. As an underwriter, I did underwrite middle market, right? First farms, then middle market. So 3 years of total underwriting. I don't remember the word lightning ever coming up, even though I'm sure it was covered by our policy because fire is covered. Right, and I don't remember a lightning exception.
Mhm.
So it's a risk we were definitely taking. And I never crossed my mind. Like I've definitely heard of services that allow you to verify whether lightning happened in that area after a claim to make sure that the fire was actually caused by lightning. And that is pretty cool. But in the preventative side, that is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So yes, definitely true that it's the only insurance. So where is this coming from? Yeah, this is like being used in a different industry, and now you're bringing it to insurance. Holy crap! Like, I'm very curious here.
Yeah, exactly. So the lightning risk assessment process actually began in Europe probably 25 years ago through their what's called IEC, which is our version of NFPA safety standards. So that was the origin of it, and that it's the original purpose of that was more of an engineering process. People would use this, and well, obviously the lightning protection industry would use it, electrical consulting engineers, EPCs, government. And it's a very comprehensive process to review a facility, a building of any type. It's not limited to any type of structure. It could be literally anything to really assess the specific risk of that building. And it takes into account a variety of different inputs. First, the first input is usually, based around that lightning, what's called a lightning flash density number or a strike point density number. And that is a specific number that is uh, to that, hopefully to that particular property. And that tells you how many lightning flashes, how many strike points have occurred over, the last 10 years, I believe, in a 2 square kilometer radius. So that number is really important to get that risk assessment process going. And then we look at a lot of other information, such as, the building dimensions, are there explosives, flammables, human occupancy issues? It's a very deep process to go through. You look at the electrical system, a whole variety of different key points. And then at the end of that process, usually there is some form of a report that is generated, and that report is usually passed to ultimately the property owner or the property manager who is responsible for making those decisions on what do they do with that information, especially if there's elevated risk. The other part of that process is providing in that report suggested mitigation measures. So in the event there is elevated risk that as a result of that assessment, then there can be suggested systems or products that can be deployed on those sites to actually lower that risk to an acceptable level. So I already mentioned like the verticals that are the primary drivers of the primary LRA process. But let me switch over to how this equates to insurance because it's a bit different. Our so right now the insurance industry does not use this process, and there's a reason why that is. Using the current methodology, it would be quite cumbersome and it would be a lot of time put into someone on the PNC's team to actually do these exercises. You probably want to have a somewhat of an engineering background, and that long process simply doesn't fit in the case. It doesn't fit well within PNC companies. It's too time consuming.
Absolutely.
So the platform that like we're building around PNC insurers is a streamlined process. Rather than providing this deep, comprehensive engineering study with this potentially 50, 100-page report, we're providing a scoring system. So we'll simplify that input process. We'll still use the lightning flash density or strike point density number. We'll still be having a whole list of like inputs that are really critical, such as what I mentioned, construction materials, building size, flammables, explosives, human, a whole, but a much shorter list of important key elements that would make up the ultimate backbone of how any insurer would be assigning how they would be taking that like risk score and assigning it against their pricing policies, for instance. So like for instance, an actuary may take that like scoring system and they may begin to incorporate it into the pricing. Of course, the biggest use case for insurers is during the underwriting process. Getting into our dashboard and quickly running a risk score on a potential property, it really allows them to optimize that underwriting process. They can potentially, identify risk early and price that accordingly into their quote or proposal to the policyholder. And then there's a flip side too. And you mentioned claims, and that's another area. Now, currently there are a couple of I I don't know if I'd call them competitors, but there's a couple of companies in the market right now that do provide strike reports to help validate whether in fact that was a lightning damage claim or it's something else, and it also helps to mitigate fraud too. Our platform has that automatically built into it. So we can cover the entire life cycle from the underwriting process all the way through claims. And then something interesting that came up early this year as a result of going through the Global Insurance Accelerator program, I learned that there's even a use case in between underwriting and claims. And as I mentioned earlier, one of the features of our platform is it provides targeted recommendation measures. And the same will apply to the insurance platform. If there's an elevated risk score, then we will be able to easily, integrate those recommendations right into that system. So at some point in that life cycle, the insurer can have a conversation with the policyholder, and it could be something like this. Hey, Mr. Customer, we've identified some potential elevated, lightning risk, and here's a list of some targeted mitigation measures. And it's really truly a win-win for the policyholder because they're potentially going to be, reducing premium cost. They're certainly going to be, either reducing or eliminating, claim deductibles. And in the event they don't have, operational coverage, they're going to be saving that as well too. So it could be huge for the policyholder, and of course the insurance company benefits too because they're lowering, like their potential claim risk. So that was a use case I didn't know 1 year ago. That's certainly got a lot of attention and in the platform that we're building.
Fantastic. So you start from the basically the number of lightnings in a 2 kilometer radius, and then
Mhm.
you go from there. The traditional process is engineering, focus engineering led, and expensive, time consuming, and results in a 1,500
Right.
page report that the underwriter has no idea what to do with,
Right.
which it just doesn't make sense for what we're trying to do. So you turn that into a risk score and customized recommendations on how to mitigate for that particular property. Uh,
Exactly.
who who tracks the lightning? Is that like the National Weather Service here in the States, or who tracks the number of lightnings in the cell or whatever the
Yeah, that's a great question. There are a variety of weather data companies around the world. The most, or I should say, probably the largest data provider is a company called Vaisala, which we use as our data source. So we have an API connection directly to their their history, which probably I think at this point goes back 16, 17 years. So we can use, and this is global, by the way. This is not just the United States. We can pull up data from any set of
that is
GPS
crazy.
coordinates. It is. So not only do we use that data feed, I mean, we integrate that data, which is also by itself kind of something new that we're bringing to all the markets that we're serving. We can take that data and we can, like I said, the first most important thing is generate that flash density or strike point density number, because that is a critical piece of information that needs to be accurate. Currently in the industry, um, that isn't an easily found number. In fact, most people they end up scouring the internet, they find an old map that isn't site specific. It's just kind of like regional or, large area numbers, and they use that number in their assessment process. And like I said, it's typical that that number is not accurate or even from a verifiable source. So we bring a lot of value to that aspect, and we take that data and we use our algorithm to create that flash density or strike point density number. In addition, we use the same data feed to generate those integrated strike reports that I mentioned earlier. So on the claims side, for instance, you could have a claims person that hops on our platform. There's only like three pieces of information that they need. They need the address or the GPS coordinates. They need to tell us what kind of radius they want to look at and what is that time frame. Do they want to look at 2 days, 5 days, whatever that potential claim happened in, and they hit generate, and there's an integrated strike report that's generated via one of our AI elements in seconds, and they can download it right to their desktop.
All right. So it looks like you created this just in the last year and a half. Uh,
Right.
uh, so I'm guessing. So you went through GIA this year.
Yes.
So you finished the program just like a month or two ago.
In April, yeah, we did.
Okay.
Correct.
Perfect. Perfect. So coming out of the program, what is the current status? Are you in POC with a couple of carriers, kind of thing?
Yeah, it's a great question. And one of the big wins for us, I mean, that GIA program, I can't say enough positive about it. The information that I learned and the knowledge I gained would have taken me years to do on my own. So it was highly valuable and has accelerated where we're at by far. I mean, like, to a very high degree. One of the big wins coming out of the accelerator is we have a pilot uh, opportunity that we're working on right now with one of the large P&C carriers in the States. So that relationship will also help to refine that insurance platform and leading up to pilot. So by the time we actually get ready for the pilot of this, well, we call this platform Risk Clarity. That's the platform name for this insurance product. So by the time we get to the pilot, we're going to have intimate voice of the customer throughout that process, and we already have, like, the platform framework already finished. So we're probably approaching that time right now where we're going to start kicking off that full development, and we expect it to be ready uh, probably first quarter next year.
Fantastic. Fantastic. For any carriers or maybe even property heavy MGAs
Mhm.
that are listening to this, um, what is kind of the dream partner for more POCs? Uh, I, yeah, what type of carriers or MGAs
Sure.
would you love to chat with?
Sure. I think any insurer that's heavy into, it doesn't have to be just commercial. This platform applies to residential properties as well. It can be applied to anything, like I said earlier. So any company that has, experienced some significant lightning related damage, or has that problem on an ongoing basis, even if it isn't their top three or four, uh, types of weather loss, it still adds tremendous value. Um, and yeah, so I mean, we're open to regions, we're open to different types of insurers as like long as they're a P&C carrier and they see a fit. We would love to talk to them.
All right. Um, I'm always curious on the origin story. How did how did you wake up one day? What fell off the
Yeah.
toilet, hit your head on the way down? What is the Doc Brown story when he comes up with the time machine? Uh, how did you realize that this was needed within insurance? That you were the right people to bring it to insurance?
Yeah. So like with a lot of startups and a lot of entrepreneurs, there's always a story, right? That how did you come up with the idea? It usually starts there. And for our story, it is unique. There's a very interesting background. So a little bit about myself. I've been in the lightning technology, lightning science space for 34 years at this point. So it was already, this lightning risk assessment process is is a key service that my previous company provided. It was a, part of our engineering revenue stream. So we spent a lot of time uh, in that space. For instance, some of the big markets that we covered in my prior company were like, for instance, solar. For instance, we did all of the major solar farms all around the entire United States. We that was kind of a niche market for us that we spent a lot of time in. They have a lot of, as you can imagine, a lot of risk exposure because of the size and the scale of, how much space those solar panels are taking up on the earth. They're at a
It's the
high
highest
potential.
thing, right? Lightning hits the highest
Yeah.
thing, and it's the highest thing.
Well, it's not just the highest thing. In the case of a solar farm, you just have so much square footage
Okay, yeah, no, I was
that,
thinking wind. Yes, you're okay. Got
yeah,
it. Yeah.
all it takes is one strike on any of those panels to have a chain reaction, and it takes out strings of panels, strings of inverters, and of course there are massive downtime loss of not being able to like generate energy is probably the largest piece. So to kind of get back to the story of how this all came about, um, after I sold my last company, I ended up at some point partnering with a close friend of mine in Singapore that's also been in this space for a very long time, and we put together kind of a new company that was kind of a boutique lightning technology company, and it was through a contract we won with Qatar Energy that led into this. We were doing the scope of work was a very large. We were looking at all of their offshore infrastructure, so it was a complicated project. And the first thing that I did to set that in motion was to purchase the only available true software and to get started on that. And we had used the previous version in my last company, and it was the user interface and experience was maddening. So we were looking forward to this new version. We get the new version to get this project kicked off, and it was worse than the first one. It was just time consuming to use it. It just was really complicated and it was really slowing us down. So, as this goes back to probably September of 23 when all this started. And by the time we got into mid-November, every team meeting we're having was just this rant session about how hard this software was to use. So at some point in one of those late November meetings, I just said, you know what, guys, this isn't rocket science. Let's just create our own. There was a problem. There was really no other options that existed. And so, like a lot of entrepreneurs, you identify a problem and an opportunity. And, so I spent December of that year, researching it, making sure I, didn't miss anything, in this, kind of scoping out what the potential opportunity was. And then in late January, we kicked off a discovery project with our software development partner. And then in April of 24, we kicked off our MVP development process. And so it was just from a unrelated project where we were dealing with a lot of pain and frustration that led into this. And then I knew from day one when we set off on this journey that there was going to be a great use case for the insurance industry. And I always knew that the insurance product would be different than this initial platform. And I knew it needed to be simpler. So that was what really instigated me getting into the GIA. I mean, I knew going into this, I didn't have any insurance background, right? So I was really lucky to have been selected uh, for this last cohort, and it really, like I said earlier, was a great experience. A lot of great knowledge. I met tons of people. I had a phenomenal mentor team throughout that accelerator, and it was like I said, it's really pushed like the needle for us in the InsurTech platform considerably.
That's fantastic. Fantastic. Um, so what are you kind of foreseeing? So 2026 is go live with a few POCs.
Mhm.
2027 is full on hit the market.
Yeah, I mean, we anticipate to be, you know, launching it. Like I said, at this point, our target is have it ready first quarter. Let's just assume it's the end of the first quarter. I mean, we'll launch commercially April 1 is what the current target is. And of course, with this pilot, that's going to help to accelerate that process further for us. We've built the risk clarity platform into our go-to-market strategy, and we have a good roadmap ahead of us, to get this launched.
All right. Is lightning the end game, or are there other hazards that can be assessed?
Yeah, that's come up often, Tony. In fact, I'd met a number of people going through the GIA that asked me the same question. Like I said earlier, the lightning risk or the lightning damage is not in the top risk pains that any PNC carrier deals with. Now, it is a 10 plus billion-dollar problem in the United States alone, but it's not, but I guess unsurprisingly, it's not the biggest pain point. As you can imagine, depending upon where you're at in the US, like we'll take like the Midwest, for example, their number one pain point, you talk to any of those carriers that have, uh, a lot of policies in that region, it's convective storms. It's wind, hail. Those are the things that are really
Mhm.
expensive for them. And you look at, the same carriers that have a lot of their portfolio based in California. It's lightning-induced wildfires that start in a brush or a wooded
Uh-huh.
area forest, creeps over to the neighborhoods and wipes them out, right? So lightning is a problem, right? But so as a result of, once again, going back to GIA and having all those conversations, people ask us, hey, could you do something similar for hail, right? That come up with wind. Those things have come up repeatedly. So we're very aware of that opportunity with those other forms of like weather damage, and it is baked into our roadmap. We're trying to obviously get this first product launched because it is like, I guess, the low-hanging fruit for our team. But it's that wind and hail thing is something that is on our long-term roadmap that we see a great opportunity of actually bringing to the table as well.
That is super exciting. Super, super, super exciting for sure. Uh, Going through the website, AI powered risk assessment, um, for companies of any size. What I found really interesting was one of the comments, uh, from what the customers are saying. One of them mentions increasing lightning activity. Is that
Mhm.
actually
Oh
scientific?
yeah.
Like, why?
Yeah.
Is it
You
climate
know,
change? What is it?
yeah. It's all climate derived. Depending upon where you live in the world, lightning frequency is already increased 10 to 40%. So
Holy crap.
it's not just the broad climate issue. It's the changing of the patterns. It's also affecting where these increases are. Here's a great example. I was talking to a customer in Saudi Arabia, like I guess maybe 2 years ago, and we were, scoping out a potential project with them. And I believe there was like 7 or 9 sites that were spread around the country. I had made a comment in passing, like, hey, since there isn't a lot of lightning activity in Saudi Arabia, let's just do one risk assessment and we'll kind of just take a typical. And so rather than doing all 9, we'll just look at, because all these sites were almost identical in the equipment and the internal risk components, uh, or risk categories. So they're like, no, 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 you don't understand. We have major lightning problems now. We don't want to do just one. We want to do all 9. And 10 years ago, I would never in my wildest dreams expected to hear that out of any customer in Saudi Arabia because it was the amount of thunderstorms are just so, as you can imagine, it's like a desert environment. There's very
There's no
little.
rain.
Yeah, so that was, that really caught my attention. And then what I ended up doing after that call is I went and pulled up some lightning data that was over the past 5 years, and it was amazing the shift I saw. So that's happening everywhere. Now, like I said, some geographies aren't as extreme as others. Like here's an example too that I learned during going through the GIA process. Um, every year there are lightning reports that come out that look at year over year trends. And Iowa, where I was working, with the GIA, they 2024, they were tied for first place in the amount of lightning frequency increase from 23 to 24. Now, Iowa gets lightning, right? But it's not Florida. That fact alone was just really surprising to me. I never would have expected Iowa to have that much increase. So there's a great example.
All right. All right. So basically, if I understood correctly, it's the time for this, for kind
Mhm.
of a dual-headed reason. On one hand, we didn't have the compute before for AI
Mhm.
to do a lot of the heavy lifting to turn that 1,500-page report into a score. And number two, there's just more lightning.
Yeah, I think you certainly hit on some big ones there, Tony. Those are all extremely important. And let me go back to the AI piece. I really didn't describe to you how we're utilizing AI. Obviously, when we set out to build this company and these platforms, it was my intention on day one to leverage the most advanced technologies as we built this. I'm a technology addict, and I wanted to make sure that we were, leveraging the current, whatever's the latest and greatest. And of course, we knew right away that AI was going to be a big piece. So we have three different siloed LLMs that drive our platform. Probably the biggest one that I think is the most beneficial and the most exciting for potential users. For a sec, I'm going to use the non-insurance platform because I think that's where this that the AI brings tremendous time savings and other benefits to the report. Like I said, the insurance platform's not going to have this huge report, but the other platform, when you get to the end of that exercise and you've calculated all your risk and you're ready to progress to the report creation, you just simply hit, submit or whatever that icon is, and our platform can create that report in right now 57 different languages. So we've built that into it, so it's a global product, and that language just will continue to grow. So that report, that LLM that is driving that report creation is looking at the standard, whichever one it was that assessment was generated off of. It looks at all the inputs, all the risk, all the calculated risk, and whatever mitigation measures were identified, and it builds this absolutely beautiful report in a very consistent, comprehensive, and most importantly, an understandable way. So, because those reports ultimately are going to end up in the hands of a non-technical person, which the industry struggle with. That's been one thing that has been hard for a lot of people to put together. So in my opinion, the largest use case of AI. And then just as importantly, there's another LLM that is specific to generating those recommended mitigation measures. So when the user of that platform gets to that area and they're needing to assign, recommendations, there's a feature where they can just have an AI generate it. So that LLM will take into account the standard again, what all those calculations are, and the weight of those specific mitigation measures, and it will automatically calculate the best strategy based upon the value of each of those mitigation measures and that unique property. So the outcome is this instantaneous set of of recommendations that the user doesn't have to manually like sort of play with, right? It's all automated and very streamlined. And then the third use case, and I know this probably doesn't sound that powerful or important, but we've got a support bot that works with the user throughout the process. So at any point, this is really important for users that don't do this frequently or have never done it before, or just get to an input they're not really sure about something. There's these hints, these like little icons. They click on that icon, and it pulls up uh, the part of the standard that is talking about that input. And it's not just like copying and pasting it from the standard. It's giving that user a well-articulated explanation of what does that mean. So that will be also a big value for users. So these three AI pieces will also flow over into the insurance platform. Like I said, the report will probably be minimal. I'm not even sure at this point if all the carriers will actually need a report. They may just get the number and like move on. So we'll still have a lot of AI in there, especially that mitigation piece. That will certainly be in there because that's going to be a big value for the underwriters.
Fantastic. This is super, super, super interesting stuff. Skytree
Yeah,
Scientific, AI's answer to the storm. Um, Chris, thank you for your time today. Very,
my
very
pleasure,
good
Tony.
stuff. Love that you went to GIA. Great organization. Any founder out there looking to address the carrier space, GIA is as good as it gets. 515 for life. Uh, and yeah, a real pleasure having you on the show today. I look forward to have you back in a year or two, maybe with a
Yeah,
client or two. That'd be fantastic to see how
sure.
it's made a difference in their portfolios.
Yep. Happy to do that, Tony.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Tony.